All right, what's up, you dirtbags? We are back in studio. My name is Luke Eggebraaten, and I will be your host today of this episode number 113. As you'll hear, we have John Summers coming back onto the show. If that name sounds familiar, that is because John is a great friend of the dirtbags. He was actually on episode number 15, which was shot back actually, it aired November 11th, 2022. If you go back, you can listen to that one again. But John, the easiest way to put it, and you'll hear in this episode, he'll go through it, but he is basically the man himself. And he has been working at AEM, which is the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. He's been there for, I think, 18 and a half years. And for anyone that knows AEM, they basically own CONEXPO. And that's been a big topic of conversation. 3 years ago in 2022, we had John on to talk about CONEXPO. It only happens every 3 years. And when we had him on, we talked about the show. We talked about building relationships, different strategies when you're there. But then we also set something up with John at the show. And Luke Payne and I had a full session with him called Drinks with the Dirtbags. And I know a lot of you guys listening were out there. We got to go hang out, have some drinks, and do kind of a live, it wasn't a podcast, but it was almost like a live interview with John at the show. So had John back on, and it was so awesome. And you guys will hear in this episode, we really dive deeper into setting KPIs, the adoption of tech in the construction industry. He talks towards the end of the episode about removing, reducing, and deferring. Keep that bookmarked when you hear it. We talk about the workforce, the construction industry, AI in landscaping and construction, and so much more. So I also asked him a few questions too, of just breaking down like, how does AEM make money? Like, where do their revenue streams come? Because they have the Utility Expo, ConExpo, World of Asphalt, and some of these big shows. So it's just really awesome to have him back on. He's such an awesome guy, and we'll get to see him at the show in Vegas. So a couple other things before we dive into that episode. As I mentioned on the last couple, we've got our ConExpo meetup. I've got a big list going of you guys that just shoot me a message, letting me know that you guys want to come. Feel free to shoot me a text if you haven't yet. My cell is 218-234-7345. Tentative time and day is going to be Thursday at the show from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We're just working on the final details of which booth it's going to be in. Kind of working with a few partners there to see what makes the most sense. But wanted to get you guys tentatively the time and date. Planning on going to see if I can order some limited edition hats and a few other giveaways that we're going to have for you guys there, just to show up, come grab a drink. Maybe we'll throw a little pizza party, whatever they allow us to do, and just have a great time. So shoot me a text. We'll put you on that list. And then my plan is to send you guys more information as we get closer. A couple other things. So huge news. I don't think I can talk about it yet, but I'm going to anyway. I won't spill all the beans, but you've heard me tease a little bit as a Dirtbags company, Dirtbags Media Group. I was looking at expanding our network, almost like the Barstool Sports model. And how do we deliver more podcast content to you guys? How do we continue to scale as a company and not just bring on more sponsors? And one of those ways is bring in more shows and more personalities. And I'm so excited because we have officially signed a contract to bring in another host for a brand new show that is going to be owned by Dirtbags Media Group. And I think I'm going to stop there, but I think in the next couple episodes, I can talk a little bit more about it. Just want to get my ducks in a row there, get the show named, and then basically it will act completely separate from this show, the Dirtbags podcast, but it will be owned and operated, produced, edited by our team at Dirtbags Media. So super excited for that. You guys have allowed this to happen, but also have asked for more. And I think this is just one of those ways where we can give somebody else another shot at hosting a show and to the point where we provide everything else, the tech, the software, the team, the graphic designers, producers, editors, even the equipment, the microphones, everything. So I definitely see this as the path moving forward, and we'd like to create more and more shows. So if you're listening to this and have any interest in starting a podcast, we've definitely had some great people reach out to us. Just keep it on your mind, because it definitely is one of those win-win structures where if you're just wanting to start but you don't have the time and you don't really care as much about like the intellectual property side of it or making a ton of money, which doesn't really happen in podcasting, this might be a good opportunity just to get in, get podcasting, and then work with an established brand and an established team. So would be super excited to hear more of your guys' thoughts on that and any ideas that you guys have. But super excited to announce more of that in the coming weeks. And then you guys will have 2 shows under our umbrella to listen to. So that is super, super exciting. And then coming up here on February 10th is going to be our 4-year anniversary of Dirtbags Media. If you look back all the way to February 10th, it was actually the episode right before the one with Aaron Witt. Our first episode is literally just a trailer of Luke Payne and I talking. And if you want a good laugh, go back and listen to that, because so much has evolved and changed, but really just the heart and soul of it is still there. And Luke obviously is such a big part of Dirtbags. He's such a great friend of mine, and he will always be in some way a part of the show. But so 4 years coming up on February 10th. Thank you guys for keeping that going. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we've been really pushing to get some weekly episodes out for you guys. This won't be the standard forever, but we just wanted to really turn it up in the new year. I know last week we had episode number 112, Failing Forward in Construction, with the man, Trent Harris. Let me know what you guys thought about that. Trent is just one of the most brutally honest guys out there and just such a great, great friend. So such a great episode. Clocked it in at an hour and 42 minutes. And then 2 weeks before that, we had episode number 111 with Isaac Bowen, and we really dove into hiring in construction. So I know with this one coming out, this is episode number 113, coming out on January 30th. Really going to push to get another one out, episode number 114, that next week in February. So going to go weekly for a couple here, and then we're going to switch things up and probably go back to bi-monthly or every 2 weeks, and we'll see what we can do. So trying to get as much bonus content, bonus episodes out there for you guys, and then get that new show rocking and rolling too. So with that, instead of doing my normal ad reads throughout the show on this episode, got a gift for you guys. I'm just going to do them real quick. I'm going to couple them all together in about 30 seconds right now, and we're going to give you episode number 113 with no ads. I've jumped around a little bit, and I just want to keep it fresh, keep it easy. But as you guys know, we have 3 unbelievable sponsors that make this show happen. Sledgehammer, all you have to do, go give them a follow at Sledgehammer Group Ltd on Instagram, or check out their website, sledgehammer.net. We also have our guy, Charlie Huff. If you need help with your insurance for your construction company, he's your guy. 435-764-4833. One of the most amazing human beings you will ever meet. Last but not least, you see I've got the camouflage hat on, repping the team at Eljen. Eljen, go give them a follow. It is at Eljen Corporation on Instagram, or give them or check out their website, eljen.com. Wouldn't be a perfect ad read if I didn't butcher that last one. So you guys know this is organic, that it is what you get. And thank you guys for listening. Last but not least, if you are listening on Spotify and you have not reviewed us, if you want to drop a 5-star review, we are at 94 reviews. Helps a ton. And second to that, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, if you want to drop a review, that would be super helpful. I think we're at 41 right now on Apple Podcasts. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you for listening to the show. Enjoy this ad-free episode with the man, John Summers. Can't wait to see you guys all in Las Vegas at CONEXPO. Let's cue the music, Brandon. This is episode number 113, Taking Construction to the Next Level with our guy, John Summers. Here we go. All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Eggebraaten, and I will be your host of this ginormous episode number 113 of the Dirtbags podcast. As you see here, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, I've got a coffee mug. This is one of my first coffee podcasts I've done in a long time, and I'm so excited. Bring a little bit different energy. It is 9:20 a.m. We are sipping coffee. Energy is high. We have a great episode for you guys coming down the pipeline. Happy 2026. I know, as you guys have noticed, we've been pumping out some episodes for you guys, trying to go week to week as much as we can, roll into 2026 with some momentum, and just keep creating for you guys. So thank you guys for the feedback on the last couple episodes. Thank you for listening. And of course, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, wherever you're listening, just if you could drop a like on our show and subscribe or follow, and then ring that notification bell, it actually helps us a ton. It helps us to continue to show up in Spotify, in Apple Podcasts, up towards the top. I think on Spotify, we're at 95 reviews or something like that. So if you haven't left us a review yet, drop a 5-star on there. Try and get us to 100 as we cruise into the new year. So as you guys heard in our overview just before this, we have a jam-packed episode and a lot coming down the pipeline. I am so excited to welcome in officially back into the Dirtbag studio for his second time, Mr. John Summers himself. How we doing, man?
Cheers, my man. I also have a coffee mug. Looking out my window, it's 40-mile-an-hour winds and like blowing snow. So I have a Milwaukee Brewers coffee mug. So I'm thinking summer and baseball right now. But
yes,
we got a few months left in the Midwest of the garbage weather that this is. But cheers to you, my friend. It's good to be back. I am.
Cheers, man.
I'm not your first returning guest, but I'm probably one of the best returning guests. How about that?
100%. So for those listening, if you recognize John's voice, John was on the Dirtbags podcast with Mr. Luke Payne and myself, November 11th, 2022. It was episode number 15, and this is episode 113. So almost 100 episodes later, we bring John back on the show. And there's a reason for that. Obviously, John, you and I are great friends. You are a powerhouse in the construction industry. You are the vice president in the construction and the utility sector for AEM, which for those listening who don't know AEM, give us a quick synopsis of what
Sure.
AEM is and obviously what AEM manages, because I think it'll really click as you go through that.
Yeah, so AEM, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. So if you know anything about associations in this industry, we love our acronyms. So I won't say that full name probably ever again on this podcast, right? But yeah, trade association for manufacturers of what we're calling non-road equipment, kind of off-road equipment, right? I mean, some stuff does go on the road, but pretty much off-highway, all the construction equipment. We cover construction and agriculture, probably the two primary sectors as we call them. But you got forestry, equipment that puts utilities in the ground overhead, and then a little bit of mining as well. So we have we're a member-driven organization. So we have about 1,100, maybe just over that, member companies. So think all the big yellow iron people, all the different colored, underground stuff, and then the components that go into those engines, hydraulic valves, all of that, tires. Then a bunch of service providers for the industry. So whether that's, media or engineering services. So yeah, so that makes up about 1,100 companies. As you said, I'm responsible for we just kind of call out construction and utility because we have two major trade shows in those spaces, right? So CONEXPO, CONEAG, as we'll talk about a lot today, right? And then we have the Utility Expo, which is every other year in Louisville. So we just had that this past October. Obviously focused on utility infrastructure versus, kind of the roads, vertical construction, horizontal construction, stuff like that, that CONEXPO has. So CONEXPO kind of is everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then I know I saw you earlier this year in St. Louis because we were
Yep.
there for our World of Asphalt show. So AEM owns and produces those first two I mentioned, and then we co-own and just manage and produce the World of Asphalt show. So that show happens every year that ConExpo doesn't happen because it kind of just happens in Vegas, during that. So yeah,
Yeah. And let's dive into that a hair here because the scheduling is funky. So for people listening,
yeah,
everyone kind of knows what ConExpo is. It's every 3 years. I was there at 2023, and a lot of us got together there. Uh, and then you mentioned here that the Utility Expo is every other year. So is that on
yeah.
the off years, or how does that
It's,
work?
I mean, and I don't know, it's every 3 years and every 2 years. So
Oh,
sometimes they're
I
the same
suppose.
year. Everybody's always like, is it really tough when they're the same year? And I think it's almost more crazy when it happens like it's happening right now, right? Where, Utility Expo was first in October and you start to see some new equipment primarily for the utility industry roll out. But everybody's still being like, all right, we'll see you in Vegas, like on Expo, more crazy shit coming, right? And
Yeah,
it's kind of like, it's almost like a little ramp up to that. I mean,
sure.
the attendee, so the contractor type, there's some overlap, but there's some people that just go to Utility Expo and stuff like that. If you're a major, call
Hmm.
it, underground, gas distribution company or something like that, right? You might not, have as much stuff or all your stuff's at ConExpo, but Utility Expo is kind of like your home, right? And
Yeah.
then since ConExpo is, I mean, kind of dig into stats, and this is always kind of bananas when you say all this stuff, right? So we'll have over 2,000 exhibitors in Las Vegas next March, and that'll be, I think it's just over 3 million square feet. So
Wow.
like, I don't even know how to, like comprehend that sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And even when you're there and you can't look at it all at once, but you're outside kind of thinking, okay, it's in all these buildings. You still can't really just comprehend how much stuff's there.
Well, and the most impressive thing with that and is the move out. I would say the move in is like very impressive and the setup, and then when you're there for the show, it's absolutely incredible. But everything has to be out by what?
I think it's almost like it's like a week late. It's probably more than a week. I mean, to take some of the cranes down. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some cranes that take 5, 6 weeks to set up, right? So those
Yeah.
aren't
Right.
just like you're not just tipping them and being like, all right, roll it out of here, right? So, but most of the stuff inside, I mean, if it's drivable, it's like show closes at 3 p.m. on Saturday and fire up and let's go, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
man.
yeah, the move in is, I think it's a 6 week process about.
Wow.
So we start in whatever that would be like the last week of January
Hmm.
about, start doing some of the outside setup.
Do you go out to Vegas during setup at all, or do you just go out there for the show?
I don't. So we have our operations team.
Got it.
They're out there. I mean, we hire like the general contractor, we call it, right? Which is they specialize in event setup and doing Vegas and stuff like that. So they're out there moving freight around, making sure all the trucks that are delivering equipment's all set up, are all flowing in correctly. We have some of our team that goes out probably, for this year. The show's March 3rd through the 7th. So it's like right in the beginning of March. So they'll be out there in early to mid-February
Yeah.
for, I don't know, a week and then come back for a week and then go back. And yeah, so
Yeah. I know. Yeah, because I'll be speaking on Wednesday. So for anyone
nice.
listening that's coming to ConExpo, you can sign up for education sessions. And if you just search my name as one of the speakers, I'm doing a session on employee retention, which is one of my favorites too, because I get data and strategies from companies from all over the world of what's working in employee retention. But we are staying at the MGM Grand, and I think it'll be myself, Colton, and Joe from our team, and then Reed, who's a good friend of mine, who will be helping with content. But John, when you guys go, are you guys is AEM all in the same area, or do you guys kind of split up and go
Some
wherever?
of our team, so just a little more AEM context. So we have about 110 employees at
Wow.
AEM, right? So I always kind of do it's almost like the, 80/20 rule kind of, right? Like 20% of those are, HR, accounting, IT
Hmm.
support, right? And then if we just say there's 100, so like the other 80, I would say half of those are trade show team and then half of them are either kind of where I sit, we do market share statistics reports. We have an
Hmm.
office in Washington, D.C., working on advocacy, trying to get their highway bill reauthorized and stuff like that. So if you think about that, half of those are trade show team and half are not, right? So some of the trade show team that, and by that, I mean operations, marketing, work on
Hmm.
registration, all the promotion, stuff like that. But some of those people that are out there for the 2 weeks, the week of the show and the week
Yeah.
before, they're in a longer stay
Yeah.
place with a kitchen and a washer and dryer. And you can only own so many CONEXPO shirts, right, to wear every day. But they don't do laundry. And then most of the rest of the team is all in like one hotel.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, and I don't think, like a lot of the AM teams stayed in Resorts World last
Oh
time,
yeah.
which is like basically right across the street, kind of easy to get to the convention center.
Yeah, because I suppose oh gosh, I mean, the monorail is great, but if
Yeah,
you
you'll be
miss
on
it by
that. I
like
mean,
10 minutes or
yeah,
something, and then you
it's
hit that hour-long line, you just got to be careful, especially if you're running the show.
yeah, exactly. Right, right. I stayed at MGM. God, so this will be let me figure out how to do math here quick. So 2008 was my first one. So 8,
Oh my
11,
gosh.
14. Yeah, I'm old. 14, 17, 20, 23. Did I count right? Is this my seventh
Yep.
one? That's nuts.
8, 11, 14, 17,
17.
20, 23. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
number
it's my
7.
seventh one. So it was probably 2017. I think I stayed at MGM and I learned that quick the first day. And the monorail is awesome. Like if you get on it,
Yeah,
but just be prepared that you'll be
go
jammed in
early.
there and you got to kind of get in line and do it. But
Yeah, you got to go early, and then little things too. Like if you're like, oh, let's stop for a coffee before we get on the monorail. Like, don't do that. Just get on, get
just get
there.
up.
You can always get coffee there. But dude, I gotta ask. I didn't even think about this, but '08, 11,
Yeah.
14, 17, 20. I mean, obviously 2020 was a crazy year, but was '08 and 11, was that a normal year as well with the recession, or what was that
It
like?
was. So if you think about how the recession really hit this industry, like people
Hmm.
coming to the show in 2008 hadn't really felt it yet,
Right.
right? So 2008 was one of the bigger, larger attended shows because I mean
Wow.
the home building industry and just building in general was going nuts. I would say 2000, this is just based on memory and my perception of it, right? But I would say 2011 was when some of the companies that normally had sent a ton of people just scaled back a little bit. So
Hmm.
we probably still had the right people there that,
Hmm.
from our perspective, right? So our members are the equipment manufacturers. So they want customers in their booth and people to look at new equipment, right? So from their
Right.
perspective, 11 was a good show because there was still stuff going on. And then you felt 2014 start ramping back up.
Got it.
And it's the thing about this industry is it's so, residual. That's the wrong word. What am I trying to think of?
Resistant.
Resilience. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we always have to build stuff. People are still going to drive. I mean, we
Yeah.
still have to fix roads. I mean, there's always going to be stuff going on. So you think about in 2020, right? So COVID year, right?
Yeah.
I always tell this story.
It
I
was
was
in March,
standing,
wasn't
it was
it?
March. So we were a little bit later in March. So
Wow.
I was there. I think I was standing outside the show on the Tuesday of the show. So the first day of the show, and the NCAA tournament was supposed to start that Thursday. And they
Wow.
canceled it. I was talking to a guy and he looked at his phone. He goes, "Holy shit, they just canceled the NCAA tournament." I'm in Vegas, right? So I already had bets in. So like, and it was like, oh dang, this just got real, right? I think that was almost like the turning point, and but from that thing, from that perspective of that, the our industry, everything kind of shut down for a couple weeks, right?
Sure.
Starting, I would say St. Patrick's Day, whatever day it was, mid-March. But then everybody was like, well, we still need power and we
Yeah.
still need to flush our toilets. So
Very essential.
let's go, right? Super essential. So, the construction industry, I mean, obviously it didn't ramp back up to probably where it is now, but I mean,
Hmm.
it came back pretty quick. So, I mean, the people that came out to that show in 2020 were, kind of thinking we still have work lined up on the books. Like we still need to
Hmm.
look at new equipment, kind of, I wouldn't say unfazed, but
Hmm.
almost, right? But I think 2020 was a really cool, like kind of turning point for the industry. And
Yeah.
we can kind of talk about, like adoption of technology
Yeah.
and, I mean, how far into this are we? I always make a joke that AI comes up in the first 10 minutes. I think are we 12 minutes in? We almost made it.
We are, let's see, we are 15, so we
Oh,
are good to
wow.
go.
Good. Almost there. We're way too late. But all that, I think it was in 2020 it's funny. I was having my previous house remodeled like in March, April at that time.
Hmm.
And the rule in the county where I lived outside Milwaukee was you could only have one trade on the job at a time, right? So we were having drywall done, some electrical work done. So it was like one
Hmm.
person needed to leave, one person came in. Even when the roofing crew was there, like they were outside, but that was it. That's all it could be there. So
Wow.
it's kind of a weird thing. But anyway, the reason I'm saying that is because I think that was when a lot of contractors were like, okay, we need to figure out how to be more efficient with
Hmm.
like the tools and the people we have, right? So and the 2023 show was focused, I'd say, more on technology,
Hmm.
in the booths and really that efficiency piece of it, than probably previous shows. I mean, there's always been technology there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think this year it'll be even more of that.
Yeah. It's the great part about all these shows, and I would love to talk also about Utility Expo because I haven't been and I've been dying to get there, but especially ConExpo, that there's something for everybody, right? And whether that you're looking just to network, whether you're looking to buy, to sell, to um, just go enjoy looking at equipment, whether you're looking to learn from business practices or learn about new technology, like it has everything there. So it's one of those where you get out what you put in type of shows, and you're not forced to do anything really.
Right.
And
Yep.
but there's something for everybody, especially, and also too, and maybe you guys have put more of a focus on this, not just the big companies anymore, and where there's you guys even have, I noticed, the small business workshop, right?
Yep.
And then Empower Her workshop, which is all for women in construction, and then additionally on that, the shop talk and walk on Saturday. So you guys are strategically implementing these different workshops and programs and educational sessions in so that people can build their own itinerary when they come to a show like this, because at 3 million square feet, I mean, you can't see it all.
Right. The building itinerary is something I always tell everybody if it's the first time or
Hmm.
seventh time like me, right? I mean, it's you can't just show up and be
Right.
like, this isn't a local car show where you're like, all right, I'll just wander around and, see all the
90-degree
different
elbow, just
brands.
with your coffee, just checking
Exactly.
things
Yeah.
out.
I was going for a stroll. I mean, obviously a lot of people are coming, just looking probably for specific types of equipment, right? So
Hmm.
it's like, hey, let's say I need to add a new 10-ton excavator to my fleet or a compact track loader or skid steer or something like that, right? I mean, it's like you might know your familiar brands and then near them are some other players, right? And you're like kind of going to go see the differences, new features, stuff like that. Like that's cool to just wander around.
Hmm.
But especially as you get into that education session and those different workshops, it's like people got to plan ahead for that. Because I mean, we have about 150 different education sessions.
Hmm.
149 that are not done by Luke Eggebraaten. So I mean,
Heck
like
yeah.
you got one out of that. That's I don't know, it's pretty good. But I mean, to that point though, I mean, it's like 150 different people talking
Yeah.
about their different experiences. I mean, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, right? And the biggest thing about this show is, I talk about seeing the other equipment or the new equipment and all the different machines. But I really think it's about learning from other people, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I kind of said this, maybe this was we were just chatting before this, but we moved into a new house just over a year ago that we built, right? So, I
Hmm.
mean, you think about like we all have a septic system. Well, I mean, the guys doing septic on my yard aren't competing with people doing septics in Arizona. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
Right.
like but you might run into some of the same issues. Maybe that's even too far away, where you're from, Minnesota, right? Same kind of
Hmm.
weather conditions, same stuff like that. It's like just hang out and meet those people and talk about what some of your challenges are. And other people probably experience the same thing and kind of learn from each other. Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a big like thing to focus on at this show.
Yeah, and I've talked about it on the show before, and I want to keep hammering it home. But
to your point of getting together with like-minded people is, we're getting a group, the Dirtbags group, together of just people that listen to the show that want to meet up at the show, that are going to be in Vegas, just to meet other like-minded people to talk about those kind of things, or just to hang out and network. And I'll have more details for you guys as we keep going through the show. But John and I were just talking before we started recording. It'll likely be something in that 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock range on a, let's say, a Wednesday or something like that, maybe a Thursday, just to avoid competing with the big dogs like the Cats and John Deere and those VIP parties that go on, which they just, I mean, pack the house at thousands of people, and it's awesome. And so it will likely try and do something where it's more towards the end of the day, but also more of a pregame where you can come hang out with the Dirtbags crew in the meetup, and then you can go to the hotel, get ready for whatever you're doing that night. So for those listening, just let me know if you'd be interested in a meetup. And I've been compiling a list of all you guys that have reached out, and I'll be sending out some more information to you guys as we get closer. But yeah, John, it's just been so cool to, I'm sure for you, to see it evolve since
Yeah.
'08. And I think the big tagline is taking construction to the next level for this year. So I guess off of that tagline, like what do you think that looks like? What is the next level in construction?
It's a fun question. So I've had a few people ask me this over the last few months. They're like, what's going to be the theme's probably the wrong word, but like the common thing,
Mm-hmm.
shown at CONEXPO Connect next or this March. It's funny because I feel like in 2024 and 2025, the word of the year was uncertainty, right? Like, because I mean, especially in our space with like tariffs and work, and is there going to be a downturn, and well, just all sorts of uncertainty, like just in the world, right? I mean, with new administration and all sorts of stuff. I think the word of 2026 is going to be interoperability, right? And I feel like that is different machines working cohesive, different brands of machines and type of machines working cohesively on a job site, but also kind of the general contractor to the subs, like being able to share more information and understanding plans and challenges and all that stuff like that. I think everybody needs to get, and a lot already, but needs to get more collaborative,
Mm.
more, kind of understanding of where they are in the process and delays and who's going faster and material delivery and all that stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? And it's that, and it from my space, so I know equipment and like technology on equipment better than like some of the other actual challenges somebody on a job site has. But a
Right.
lot of that is, if you have your 3D plan, loaded into some system, like, can I get that to the grade control machines
Right.
of multiple brands of different technology providers, right? So, I mean, I think there's a lot of that. And you think about the data from equipment, like the telematics
Mm-hmm.
data, and it's not just where's my stuff, right? It's more hours and fuel remaining and operator behavior. And there's I'll keep referring back to my neighborhood build because it was fun to watch everybody get their landscaping done, this past
Mm-hmm.
summer, including myself. And I think I saw 8 different yards put in kind of on my street. And I would say there was only one repeated brand of equipment. So there was probably 7 different makes,
Wow.
models of stuff, right? I mean, I'll just be really clear. We had a New Holland machine here on my site, which just contractors showed up with that. I saw Cat, JCB, Deer, Kubota, Bobcat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're all different CTLs, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, so you think about if somebody was doing this whole thing, like nobody has all the same fleet really anymore. It's
Right.
all mixed fleet, right? So it's being able to get some of that data off all those machines and the interoperability, right? Of all that stuff. I think that's one of the kind of trends. That's probably a better word than themes, right? That you'll see at the show this year.
Interesting. So, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but typically with big brands, is there a sense of, do they try and gatekeep probably isn't the right word, but like
Yeah, it's
hold
kind of
their,
like in their ecosystem, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
hold the data because they don't want you to be a mixed fleet. But then are there third party technologies that can access the data? Is that kind of where it's potentially going?
Yeah, and that's existed for a while, right? So if
Yeah.
we're talking machine telematics data, I mean, there's a standard that says if you're going to provide data to go to other systems, here's the format it needs to go into, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you think about what some of the equipment OEMs want to provide their customer, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like they want access to the data for multiple reasons, right? They want to proactively provide, service. They will also want the data for engineering to like build a better machine in the future if there's something going wrong repeatedly, right? So it's not like they want to hold it all themselves, but they still want
Yeah.
access, still want visibility to it, but they also want to make their customer more efficient. So
Yeah.
it's like opening up the access to, the data fields that are important to that customer. Like everybody's that I know, right, is open to that, right? And I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
customers are demanding it. The challenge with that then is, the contractor needs somebody to like interpret it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's somebody to look at it and somebody to understand, is this actionable? Can I do something with this or not? Right.
Right.
And it
Yeah. And I think too, it's because you could have one contractor using it and on the cusp of technology, but then if the other subs are on the reverse side of it, it's probably only as good as the team that's using it, right?
right.
And like
Yeah.
everyone that comes together. So I suppose that could also be a slower burn as well. It's like, sure, there might be everyone at CONEXPO, as an example, might be gung ho about the technology and the interface, but then when they go back to the local market, maybe it's like pulling teeth again with the other subs.
Yeah, or that, or, if you're trying to get a full picture of,
Mm,
all the data off the job site and you have some owned machines and rented machines, and then you have a sub on some stuff, it's like, how do I capture all of that kind of
yeah,
into one system or analyze it, in one place or get an output from one place, right? It's been a challenge, right? I mean, you kind of said like keep somebody in an ecosystem. I mean, you think about like, if you have an iPhone, right? I mean,
hmm,
Apple kind of wants you locked into Apple, but they don't, right? Because they have the whole app store. And I mean, so does Android, right? I mean, it's like they know that they're not going to do everything. So
right,
they want to basically have their customer be able to utilize their device and have a good operation, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of earth moving companies that don't make aerial lifts, right?
yep,
And it's like, well, they need those on a job site. So how do we kind of collaborate with other brands and, kind of help that whole um, contractor, business?
yeah, yeah. They keep it just frustrating enough with those green text messages, and it's like, okay, I'll
Yeah.
stay, but I just need access to these other apps, and it's like, yep, we'll give that to you. Like, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I'm never
Yeah.
leaving.
Right. Try and push you into something else that's complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But no, that's man, that's really cool. And then I wanted to bring this up too as we were talking about it, but some of the different tracks on the education sessions, these are divided up pretty nice. And this came in my handy dandy ConExpo magazine. But a couple of the tracks that you might see in these education sessions would be aggregates, business best practices, cranes, rigging, and aerial lifts, earth moving and site development, asphalt, concrete, equipment management and maintenance, safety and health, sustainability, technology solutions, and workforce. So you kind of cover all the bases there, but I know
Yeah.
even some of those sessions of those 150 is a combination of a few. It's bringing tech into equipment, and so yeah, it'll be really cool to see what comes from the education side, and that's just the like that's just a part of the show, right? And so
Right.
that's
Yeah.
just an extra part of it, not even the booths, which is I would say the booths and the trade shows the biggest piece, which isn't even the
Yeah.
education.
But it is education,
It
right? I
is,
mean,
right. That's what I
so
mean.
you think about who's educating you, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, you're doing an education session. I'm actually moderating a panel during one of them, and it's a technology provider, an equipment OEM, I think, and a contractor, right? So the
Hmm.
thing with the education sessions is nobody really wants to be sold to unless you're
Right.
prepared to be sold to, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, most of those are not done by I'll call them exhibitors,
Yeah.
right? Or they have a piece of it, but they're talking about the technology, or I mean, yours is the retention and the
Hmm.
workforce and the asphalt ones are maybe like mix, better asphalt mix in a certain climate or something like that, right? For
Yeah.
longevity, right? So it's all of that different stuff. And it's like more on best practices than it is this new model XYZ one, two,
Yeah.
three is the best, right? So then you go in the booth and then you're getting educated on that brand's new machines, how to use it, whatever they're releasing, right? So it's a different mix, right? So I think the education sessions are super valuable because most of the people in them are hearing from peers.
Yeah.
Like I said before, they're not really competing with, or they're different part of the country or not, and doing some of the same stuff. And then you get in the booth, and then it's more information sharing, but obviously from that brand about what their new stuff is, which you also need, right? Because you can't just forget about all the new releases of everything. So
Right. And what I like about that is, there's kind of this spot where you can workshop and learn for your own business and your own industry. And then when you go to the trade show, like everyone expects to be sold, but also they're there to buy typically, or to
exactly,
learn.
yeah,
And so
right.
it's a really nice mix of that. And then also too, I believe you guys have, because the Las Vegas Convention Center is massive. If anyone hasn't been there, and there's different buildings, and I believe you have the different buildings is sectioned off with different industries, maybe, or how is that broken up?
Yeah, it's so about I mentioned it's about 3 million square feet. I think about half the show's inside and half is outside, right? So
Got
we're
it.
the whole Las Vegas Convention Center, parking lots around it, and then just across the strip, you can basically see it from like the West Hall is the festival grounds, right? That's all
Hmm.
outside, I believe. But yeah, we're there. We call them product concentration areas. I mean, it's
Mm,
kind of what you said. It's kind of industry, but
sure.
it's all the cranes are, out in festival grounds with some earth moving stuff in West Hall, more of the aggregates,
Hmm.
crusher conveying, all that stuff like that is in central or in the lot just outside of that. So back to the have a plan piece, right? I mean, it's like there are the focus areas or the concentration
Sure.
areas where, you could just start there and walk it, right? Because you might find something you didn't know existed or
Hmm.
some brand that has something new that you weren't going to look for. Um, but we try to keep it like together like that because it is so big. So if somebody's like, I'm going to spend a day looking at this stuff, they're all in one area and they're not jumping,
Yeah.
back and forth because then you need a lot longer than a day.
Yeah, especially if you get in some good conversations with people, 20, 30
Yeah.
minutes, and I mean your day goes quick.
Oh yeah.
Um, man, I was thinking about this yesterday too, and I'm super curious. Obviously you've worked with AEM now for 18 and a half years, and
Crazy. Yeah.
the way my brain works is it's an association, right? But you guys are heavy in the event space. So how does a company like AEM, like, how do you guys make money, and how is that split typically? Is it mainly events? Is it memberships? Is it a combination of a bunch of things? How does that business model work? And then also I want to dive into too, you mentioned you have 1,100 members. We can talk about this a little bit later, but like what value do they get by being a member?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So there are some associations that, make the majority of their money off membership, right? So our
Hmm.
members pay, the companies pay membership dues. Um, I would say a lot of associations or most of them make more money off events. Our
Mm,
thing is just we have a couple of huge events that we make a bunch of money off of, and then that kind of goes back to subsidizing some of our other
right.
services, right? So yeah, it's a combination. I mean, we do a couple conferences for some of our members every year. But CONEXPO, CONEG, is the majority revenue. Trade shows in general, just majority revenue. But
Yeah.
I mentioned we do a bunch of market data. Our whole advocacy function, which is advocating for the industry to, get more federal, local funds down to the contractor and all the stuff like that. I mean, that's basically all subsidized from the trade shows.
Hmm.
Right. So I mean, just by having ConExpo primarily, but also Utility Expo, we talked about, like that just allows us to do other things to help, drive the industry forward.
Hmm.
If we didn't have those, the team would obviously be slimmed down because we'd lose some
Right.
events team, right? But we just wouldn't have as many, resources and funds to kind of tackle some of that other industry important stuff, whether it's at the policy or regulatory.
Hmm.
You can talk regulations. Yeah, that's another challenging thing for every industry, I'm sure. But the market data, um, all that. So you think about what the value our members get, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a few different core services. I mean, anybody can exhibit at the shows, but there's a discounted rate if you're a member company of AEM,
Got
right?
it.
So the anybody that's a member, pays a little bit less for their space, save them some money to bring more machines and stuff like that. And then we have a lot of stuff that we say is included in membership dues. So some of that is, participating in some of our advocacy policy function. We have 100+ different committees. I also lead our sustainability efforts, so helping our members understand sustainability of their supply chain and complying with some of the regulations on there's I don't know if you heard about PFAS or something like that, like some of these chemicals that are in products, and trying to understand if those are regulated out, how we can move forward. And, most of it's like educating the regulators and policymakers on, okay, this is good. Like we also would like to not have these potentially dangerous chemicals in there. Or you think engine emissions, right? Like, sure,
Right.
like we would love to have less emissions come from our machines, but we need to engineer it and understand here's the challenges with it. And this isn't something, the industry can do by the end of 2025 and, or 2026 and stuff like that. Right. So it's a lot of that stuff. So I think our members get the value from participating in those committees, understanding that stuff, like some of the market data that I mentioned before. So
Yeah, and as you're speaking about it too, it almost, you mentioned you have an office in DC, and so there's a lot of legislation there, and then also the regulations and the market data. You guys are almost like a bridge of, or a filter even of, hey, our members like put some trust into us to kind of go to bat for them, but also
that's a good way to put it.
the
Yeah.
industry as a whole, right? And because if I own an excavation company, I'm not gonna do go to DC to work on legislation, and but you can also be a part of it too with these committees. I feel like that you guys have set up.
Totally. Yeah. And it's, I mean, our members, the equipment OEMs, like they have their business, but they also have their customers' business in mind, right? So if you think about some, regulations, and it's like internally that might be very challenging for their engineering teams to comply with that, but they also don't want to just hurry up and do it and put a machine in the market that's going to have challenges in the field, right? So a lot of stuff that's taken into consideration is that full testing of multiple year testing and stuff like that. So the product they put out, has the dealer and the end user, in mind. So it's, yeah. So I mean, like you said, we're like in the bridge. I always kind of say it as like, we're like the main industry voice that should educate multiple channels on pros, cons, challenges, timelines, advantages of technology, what all that stuff, like what needs to be done to, reap the full benefits of implementing something. Like it's all of that stuff. And it's a lot of times it's easier to come from an association kind of representing the industry versus, OEM A says this is bad for the industry, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, is it just you that doesn't, right? I would say it like never is just them, but it's more, I don't want to say accepted, but kind of, it's more understood from like a brand agnostic, level of us kind of saying it. So we've done quite a bit more of that, kind of that policymaker, legislative education on, here's what you're thinking about, next regulation on something, here's what we can do, here's what's challenge, here's how that'll have an impact, all that.
Man, that's so interesting. And because the way I always think of it is, really it's all business, right? And there is a sort of unless you're a nonprofit, but even nonprofits have to make revenue and then have expenses. Right. And when you boil it down, you want to be providing value to your customers, and you receive compensation for that, and then you need to spend less than you make. And it's at the simplest form, that is a business, and association is a business, for profit, nonprofit, like everything has to operate that way. And I guess what I was thinking about as well is so the Utility Expo, I don't know the history of it as much. I'll use this as an example. Was that something that you guys acquired, or is that something you started? And and then have grown since then.
We can talk about that and kind of CONEXPO history
Yeah.
too. Right? So there were two associations that combined in 2020 or 2001 or 2002 that made AEM. Right.
Oh,
So one of them owned and operated the Utility Expo, which was called IQ. It was ICUEE, which was like International Construction
acronyms.
Utility, something more acronyms that nobody remembers. Yeah. And then the other one owned essentially the CONEXPO portion of CONEXPO CONEXPO, but like the whole show as a whole, right? So those two merged in. I think the merging happened in 2001, then it was officially launched in like 2002, before I was there. But I mean, the history of that show started as essentially like a telecom show. I always forget, it was I think it was somewhere in Illinois, and then it moved to basically Kansas City. It was just outside Kansas City, but it's been in Louisville now for, I can't remember when, long time.
Yeah.
And it's great in Louisville there because we use a building and a paved parking lot, and there's a dirt lot. And I mean, there's companies that dig trenches and put drills in trenches and, use piercing tools to, go inside of a trench and install a trench box. And it's a lot of the old tag, I guess it's still kind of his tagline, but the old tagline was the demo expo, like demonstration, cool. Right? So, I mean, it's a lot of equipment demonstrations. Not that CONEXPO is not, because I mean, there is, right? I mean, you remember, Caterpillar's Arena, or I always think of like Develon out there had the machine up on a pile of rocks, moving some dirt and stuff like that, right? But Utility Expo, I mean, they kind of let us do whatever the hell we want.
That's awesome.
It's like, this is flat dirt. Just put it back the way you found it.
Dirt parking lot
in 2 weeks, right?
Hey, so if only we had some equipment to get it back to grade.
Exactly. Well, so funny story with that show this year. They in Louisville in early October this year it was top 3 most amount of rain they've ever had in a 24-hour period. So it was just nuts. It was like flooding. It was craziness. So luckily we had equipment out there that could dig a trench to make the water flow out of the thing. Right.
That's awesome.
So there's a video of
you could build them for that, I guess.
Digging a trench to get water flow out of there. I mean, a bunch of the, vac trucks pumping some water out and stuff like that. But I mean, it was the first day of the show was crazy rain, and we had to have everybody come inside, right? And all the inside exhibitors were super happy. And then that got cleaned up, man. I mean, it was Wednesday. So it was Tuesday, it rained really hard. Wednesday of that show, like you could tell it rained, but you would have never thought there were rivers out there. I mean, there were some squishy spots in some of the dirt booths, but it was almost like business as usual. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, that show's fun because it's just a lot of demonstration, but it's really focused on, I always say that show's focused on 3 areas, right? There's utility infrastructure that's underground, utility infrastructure that's overhead, and then a lot of the interior booths are technology, but almost more safety equipment, right? So whether that's gloves, harnesses, insulated tools for working around high voltage, stuff like that, right? So it's a lot of, I mean, you think of linemen, right? I mean, it's a lot of hand tools, a lot of up on a pole or up in a bucket, doing stuff around voltage and stuff like that. So it's a lot of focus on that. A lot of, I'll say like power tools, but like specialized trades, power tools and stuff like that inside.
Gotcha. And then, so then the associations merge. You guys have these other, it's like the groundwork for this show and this association, but then you rebranded both. The domain was just available, or did you have to buy it?
So utility, well, it's funny. So it's like, what the hell's IQ mean? Right. So it was like, this is a utility show. So it's the Utility Expo. So we rebranded that. I think it was, so this is 23. I think it was the 2019 show, or 2021 show was the first year of Utility Expo.
Oh, wow. Is that recent?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Really recent. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was the third Utility Expo after IQ, but I mean, same thing, just better brand and, awareness. And then the CONEXPO history, I'm actually gonna look at my fact sheet here so I kind of get this, like I don't mess these years up. But the CONEXPO piece of it, right? So the construction expo, right? It used to be called the Road Show. And
Okay.
it was originally like in 1909 in Columbus, Ohio was the first road show, which is nuts to think
Wow.
it's been. I mean, you're on episode 113. I mean, this is on year 119 or whatever it is, right? I mean, it's
Wow.
crazy. Um, and then the concretes and aggregate show, so that's the ConAg part of it,
Hmm.
happened in 1928 in Detroit. And then the road show got rebranded to ConExpo in 1969. And then none of this really matters, but we're coming up to the big merge, right? Or the co-location technically, right? So the ConExpo ConAg was in Las Vegas in 1996,
Okay.
the first
Wow.
show. So back to the road show. I think that show happened every 6 years, just because technology was slower and like
Yep.
why, right? And then we um I think it was in either in 96 or maybe right before that it went on a 3 year, every 3 years.
Hmm.
But then yeah, ConExpo ConAg with those two larger shows kind of, co-located and merged together. And then AEM took over sole management of that. So we
Got it.
do co-own the whole thing um, with National Ready Mix Concrete and then
Hmm.
Stone Sand and Gravel Association. So they were the ones that
Gotcha.
were the ConAg part of it, right? So, but yeah, so in 2004, AEM started managing the whole combined show in Las Vegas. And then it's been every 3 years since then and growing since, right? So um, I think 3 million square feet in 2023, but we'll
Hmm.
be we'll be just over that this year. Um,
Do you just expand the outside portion in the parking lots there? Or how do
much as
you?
we can. I mean, it's almost like we're out of space, right? I
Yeah. Oh,
mean,
yeah. That's what it
yeah,
seems like.
it's and the convention center, does some construction. They added some new meeting rooms and
Sure.
whatever. So it's like we lose a little bit of space here and try and figure it out over here. And yeah, it's a challenge for that team is to kind of be like, where do we fit everybody? I mean,
Right.
there's a couple hundred companies on a wait list right now to get in the show, right? So it's like we don't even have
Wow.
enough space for that. So
So there's a wait list to be an
to be an
exhibitor.
exhibitor, yeah, yeah. And there has been, for a while. It's yeah. It's
Dude, that's awesome though, because that also is retention for your current exhibitors of like,
totally.
we can't just give up like, oh, we'll take this year off and save some money. It's like you lose your spot, right? And then you probably go back down to the bottom of the waiting list.
Go down. Well, you talk about advantage of being a member.
Yeah.
Like our members also get some points on when so there's a
Right.
date that everybody kind of puts in their, hey, I want space application, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the who gets to pick their space first, and there's this algorithm of like years of membership and size and all the stuff like that, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, if you go out of off a show, like of course you get moved down. I mean, I think every show does that, right? It's kind of like you
Yeah.
missed one, and now you're kind of at the bottom of the list, and but um yeah, it's a pretty crazy process. And the thing that, if we flip back to kind of technology, the thing that I
Yeah.
learned, especially at the last show, was there's a lot of other companies there that are, let's just say for 2026, let's just say we sold out of space, a year ago, right?
Hmm.
Because it was probably around that, right? There were some startup companies that didn't exist until, April of 2025. And it's like, oh, we want to be this
Right.
show. And it's like, well, yeah. So, and even if they would, right, it's kind of like, where do they fit?
Yeah.
Are they just going to have a smaller booth? Like, how do we make sure they get traffic and all those challenges like that, right? So keep kind of exploring ways to kind of shed light more on those um, technology providers, like kind of like the software. It's not only software, but like software side of it, right? We're
Yeah.
not going to have a machine. Um, yeah, so I did a 2023. I did I kind of called it a startup meetup and had a
Hmm.
few venture capital firms invite some of their companies or some new companies, and everybody got in a room and kind of networked for a while. So we're going to try and do something like that again, just to kind of give them a space to meet people. So
Could Shark Tank it?
yeah.
Like have a
So,
bunch of
okay. So the other thing we kind of skipped over or didn't skip it, but you mentioned the shop talks and walks, and I kind of want to
yes,
come back to those workshops. But
absolutely.
the other thing we're doing this year for the first time is we have a stage that we're calling the Groundbreakers stage.
Yep, I saw
So
that.
it's essentially like a keynote stage. So Yeah, there's a few presentations going on that. So, I mean, I think John Deere kicks it off on that Tuesday. Epiroc has one, Caterpillar has one, Autodesk, Mack Trucks, AWS. But on Thursday afternoon, I've pulled together, it's not really a Shark Tank, but it's kind of like a quick like TED Talk session where there's a 2 hour block. And I'm having some people talk about specific technologies that are impacting or disrupting the construction industry. So robotics, autonomous systems, AI, drones. There's one on like data. And it's
Wow.
basically kind of just quick hit. A guy named Matt Abels from ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors, he and I have kind of just like teamed up and pulled this thing together. And it's not a pitch. I mean, it's not a product
Sure.
pitch at all, but it's kind of talking about technologies just to give everybody a sense of like how these are impacting. So I think what'll be interesting is, if we look back on that session and who presented during that in 2029, right? I think a lot of that technology is going to be more integrated in some of the booths at that point. And yeah.
Interesting. So you said that was on Thursday and it was a 2 hour session?
Yeah, it's Thursday afternoon, Thursday the show afternoon. Yeah, for a couple hours. So we'll just give a quick little brief intro, and then there's 7 different,
Got it.
call it 15-minute sessions, right? Of just kind of somebody talking about. There's a gentleman talking about cybersecurity and how that should be important to all the businesses and how detrimental it could be if you don't kind of figure out your security structure and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff for, especially some of the smaller mid-sized contractors to start thinking about, from a cybersecurity, or do they want to be an early adopter of something to kind of get a competitive advantage there, right? So
yeah, well, and we talk about that all the time because most of the contractors we work with at Phaser are, small to medium sized contractors, but they're scaling, right? And that's why we work together, is we're trying to grow our team and grow our revenue. And so, yeah, and especially when this is happening every 3 years, like you do want to at least have it on the horizon so you can see what you're growing towards.
right.
And a lot of times it's just adding value or helping you solve a problem that you might run into. And when you go to a show like that, and I think it's important to be grounded into what are my current needs, but also to then be exposed to some of the horizon future technology or future fleet management systems or whatever you're looking at, so that you can grow into that and then not have it be the first time you're seeing it when you need it.
Right. Or it's helping, or not or, but like helping some of those contractors identify what some of their like improvement areas could be, right?
Yeah.
If you don't, before it becomes a problem or before it becomes like something you need to focus on, right? It's kind of like, just remember that this is, I'm thinking cybersecurity now before something happens, right? It's always like quick panic mode, right? But I mean, even the equipment data or automating some functions of a job site, right? It's like, you'd think about how that could help them. And if they don't know that it's an option or don't know, what to really look for, trying to just kind of shed some light on that. Might not be like super readily available in the, practical to use today, but like in the near future, it could be. So like, just know that it's coming.
Well, and a lot of times there's a version of it you can use, and specifically with equipment data, you can use that to know your numbers on the financial side to understand your business a bit better, of like what are our utilization rates of our equipment. And you mentioned earlier of like knowing how much fuel is left, what is the production rate of this piece of equipment, and then being able to see all that into into some kind of dashboard that you can digest as an owner into, when do we buy, when do we rent, when do we scale, when do we hire, and just knowing your numbers a bit more. So I think you might not get all of it right away, but I think there's levels to it, especially when you're looking at data, technology, software, even equipment.
I think that's one of the mistakes a lot of people make, right? Like a lot of businesses make, is they say, we want to do better, right? And it's like they don't pick what they want to do better with, right? It's like maybe they don't know what their amount of hours they're idling on a job site in a week, right? So it's like, get the data, figure that out, then determine, is that too many? And then determine how to improve that, right? And if it is, incentivizing operators to turn the machine off or whatever it is, right? It's like, but I think some people are like, all right, give me all the data. And then they're like, let's find insights and do cool shit, right? And it's like, how, what? Like, you got to figure out where you think you can make improvements and then kind of find the technology or find the data that can like provide those insights and then focus on that until it gets to either it's on its way to getting better or you hit the threshold you want, right? And then it's like, okay, now what's next, right? Because I mean, we talk about safety a lot, and I like talking about safety because it's super important and like that should be everyone's number one priority, right? But a lot of people don't necessarily look for insights in potential safety risks until something happens. I mean, it's just like anything you do, right? It's like you don't. I doubt a lot of people, check all the pipes under all their sinks to see if they're leaking every month, right? And all of a sudden you're like, why is there water here? Oh my God, right? So it's like, but to that, it's like you can be a little bit more proactive with that, right? So I mean, you could monitor like speed of a wheel loader or something like that, and it's like, is this person driving too fast? Because then like that might wear tires more, so it might be a cost thing, but it also might be a safety issue. And it's like, but figure out what those kind of key performance indicators are, or like the metrics you want to. We were just waiting to say KPIs for like 10 minutes there.
Dude, I wrote it down just 30 seconds ago. Oh man, and you just stole my thunder there. But that's why I love working with bigger companies. Like if it's a software company, utilizing their platform, because what that allows you to do is you can compare and contrast what a decent standard is that they see, because they have the data and they have the clients, right? And they have the data points. And so you can set a good KPI of, okay, I'm one company, what should we be running at in terms of idle idle time, and like compare it to others instead of me just asking 3 people in my local area. Like I want to see 1,000 or 10,000, and where do you typically see this? And that's I don't want to go too far on a tangent here, but that's where a good coach, like a business coach, comes into play, because they can show you like, hey, here's a good standard to shoot for, and here's where you are. That comes back to knowing your numbers, knowing where you're at, and knowing what to shoot for. It doesn't mean you have to, like, that is your idol and that is exactly what you're shooting for the rest of your life, but it at least gives you a direction to point into where you want to go. And so you mentioned it perfectly there, of just having good KPIs. And I think you can find good KPIs when you work with other companies that do this for a living. And so that being, maybe that's fleet management or technology or a software, because they have what's very valuable, which is data of all these other companies. And typically part of their retention strategy is to show you some of that data, to show you where you match up, to keep you on longer, because that's a huge value add for us as a customer, is seeing that.
Right. I mean, you think about areas, if you're a contractor, you think about areas you could improve, but do you still suck after you improved? Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, if you look at your percentage of idle time, percentage of fuel burn that's burned during idle, right? And I don't know numbers that well, but like, let's say you're at 30% and you're like, cool, we got down to 25. Well, what's the industry average? Like, is that still, is it 20? Because you're still bad, right? I mean, like good for you for improving. But I mean, if you don't know what yours are, that's step one, obviously, right? And then figure out areas for improvement. But then you have to figure out how you can benchmark against like some kind of average or best practice or something like that, because just you getting better is fantastic. But now you're thinking, especially if you're working that into bids and stuff like that, if you're assuming fuel cost is going to be this and it doesn't need to be, or it shouldn't be, like, then you probably are too high, right? So it's like, you got to kind of figure out all those. I think that's one of the things that, it's been a while since we said AI again, so here we go, right? But I mean, I think like the AI is really good at, if you're thinking about pumping data into AI systems, right? It's really good at taking fairly normalized data, meaning semi-structured data, because it has to know what it is, right? And then structuring it so you can, actually have some kind of output or get insights from it.
Yeah.
So like, you talk about the mixed fleets and stuff like that. Like if you can get all of it, right, and then you're looking for something specifically, like I think there's a lot of stuff coming, in that space on, analyzing large amounts of data to provide an output to give you some kind of focal point for improvement.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, and this is a trigger word for people, some people, the keyboard warriors especially, when you say AI in the construction industry, they automatically think of, AI can't go dig a hole. It's like, well,
Right.
that isn't necessarily the only use case for AI, and also AI has been around for a very long time, not just the last 2 years. Um, but a lot of what AI can improve, especially in construction, is in the office, right? And we are seeing some use of artificial intelligence in the field, like a little bit, and we get to see a lot more at CONEXPO and get to see what's out there. And I would agree that maybe isn't quite to where we're not going to need any people, obviously, but you look at how can we improve to then have it be a thought partner with us, right? And
Mhm.
that's usually how I look at it is when it comes to data and scraping and analyzing large amounts of data is what used to take 2 weeks and cost a fortune now takes minutes and costs nothing.
Right.
But when you can build that into a system that um, has a good user experience or user interface and that you can use to develop your business, it just becomes so much easier to leverage AI in a way that has already been tested. And it kind of goes back to my other thought of like, uh, I don't really. I do recommend people to jump on, Chat GPT or Gemini and test it out and use it here and there. But what I really like is now that these CRMs and these platforms are starting to
Mhm.
integrate AI into it, and so they've already done a lot of the testing. They've already built it and set it up for you to jump in and use. So if you're using a CRM like Jobber or House Call Pro or any of these, a lot of them you'll start seeing having AI features built in, and a lot of times that's a nice kind of segue into this world of
Uh,
leveraging it for to become more efficient and more productive. And then also you can have a free account on the side just to be a good thought partner, and that's just a good way to start, in my opinion, utilizing AI. And then one other thing too is just like this time of year, because I'm the owner of our company, and so it's nice to talk to our CFO about a lot of things, financial wise, tax wise, but also to um, leverage AI with of just, hey, we have this. Here's our P&L, right? And you withhold any sensitive information, but here's our P&L over the last 6 years since 2019, broken out by month. Uh, Ask me clarifying questions one at a time so I can give you more details on what you're analyzing here. And then when you do it like that, it can start to ask you more pointed questions of, hey, I see in your cost of goods sold, you have these categories, break those down for me. And then it can start to refine the data to give you some more insight on, like you were talking about earlier, whether we're off track, on track, are we should we be saving a bit more? Should we be setting a higher KPI? Like, where help me understand our team, help me understand our salaries, what we're paying people, but also our business decisions going forward. And then you take that information to your CFO, which he's already been leveraging it, and then you can have a more, in my opinion, a more educated conversation with your accountant or your CFO.
I think if you just think to yourself, AI is a tool, not a solution, right? I mean, you think about the potentially replacing people or it can't dig a hole and stuff like that. I mean, like it's easier to like start to implement it if you think about it being a different tool to do something you're already doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I run our construction sector board at AEM, and there's 20 board members, executive level folks from some of our member companies. And over the last 3 or 4 years, we have 3 meetings a year. At the end of the year meeting in November, we go around the room and I say to everybody, I'm like, tell me, challenges of whatever year it is and things that you think are opportunities or challenges going forward. And I almost type word for word, right? And like, I don't ever share that, but I put it in our internal, we have Copilot, Microsoft Copilot in here. And I said, here are board member thoughts over the last 4 years, separated by year, put out a report based on, trends of this and stuff like this. And I could have done that. I could have read all of those lines and done all that stuff. I would have probably needed to be drinking late at night to get through all of those words I wrote, right? But I was like, just do this. It was awesome because it gave me a summary that said, in 2022, the workforce was mentioned more than it is now. Now tariffs are mentioned more. Technology adoption has been consistent the whole time over the last 4 years and stuff like that. I was like, this is so accurate. And it's like, now I have something like kind of a report that I could, like you said, give your CFO. I'm not going to give it to anybody, but I gave it to my team. I was like, here were our board thoughts. And they were like, interesting. Right. And it's just like, now what are we going to do with that? I mean, that's where you still need the people part to figure out, especially from my perspective, is how AM, can help the industry with that information. Right. So I mean, our, like technology adoption, right? Like we're always working on, awareness or industry standards that would remove barriers to adoption, but that's been a challenge for 3-4 years now, right? And it's like, it's cool just using it to do something that you maybe manually could have done. I think that's the easy gateway, right?
Yeah, I definitely look at the easy gateway just to get your foot in. And then also too, what I'm very excited about, and because we've always done, for the small business owner like myself and like a lot of people listening, what's great about this is a lot of people think that AI will build their business and save their business and do everything for them, but that will only accentuate the personal touch and make the people even more valuable that they work with. Because, and that's, I see a lot of times that's what some companies miss, especially small businesses. And some companies do the best. Like all the vendors we work with, that we hire, that we bring on, we work with because of the people, not necessarily the technology, but it's the technology paired with the right people. But that's also why we stay. And so this isn't going to be anyone's saving grace. But the more you just focus on taking great care of your people, the better your business will do, but also being willing to adopt technology so that you're not spending all your time doing this manual work that could be done, that could be sped up and honestly done better a lot of times. And you still want that human eye on it. You want that human touch, but at the end of the day too, if you can get it done. Actually, one of my coaches told me this the other day. We had a coaching call and we were talking about hiring in the US, hiring overseas, and talking about AI, because we do all three. We have US team, overseas team, and we use a lot of AI. And he's like, Luke, I'll just tell you this. I don't discriminate. If the same person, I don't care whether they're in the US, whether they're in Colombia, or whether it's a robot, if that same person or thing can get it done and it's cheaper and it's better, as a business owner, you have to go with that. And I'm like, yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was a really cool way to think of it, is not discriminating on, this person can input this information, is already inputting this information manually. But it's like, well, this robot can do it in minutes and it's more accurate. So let's free up this person's time to do something more strategic and use their brain for different things. And so I think there's just a big shift in that of, yes, some jobs will look a lot different and some will be eliminated, but it doesn't eliminate the need for people to continue to use their brain in a different way in that role.
And it's, you think about people changing jobs, right? I mean, it's not like this industry has too many people.
No.
Right. So, I mean, like I heard a stat.
That's another topic.
This was construction, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking this is like, in building, drywall contractors and stuff like that. So not really our space, right? But I heard a number, I think it was last year, it was 600,000 people short in the construction industry. What?
Yeah.
So like, let's remove some of those jobs that, people that we don't need a person doing, and then we can knock that number down, right? I mean, I don't think it's going to be down to 100,000. I mean, we're not going to make up 500,000 people anytime soon, but at the same time, it's like, I was talking to somebody else in a different meeting or on a different podcast. And I was like, you think about some tools that, the average person may have in their house, right? It's like a Roomba vacuum,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because I got a Roomba doesn't mean I'm just super bored at home because I don't have to vacuum now, right? It's like
Right.
there's so much other stuff I could be doing that it's like I don't want to do those tedious jobs, and I'd prefer if my 4-year-old's crumbs weren't all over my floor all the time, right? So it's like let's find something that can like help with that because I have other stuff to do, right? So
Yeah.
it's not, you think about, especially in construction, it's like if there's somebody manually, I keep going back to the data conversation of like equipment data, right? If there's
Sure.
somebody manually looking through that and analyzing it and stuff like that, it's like, why don't we remove that, but keep that person there? And then once the actions kind of come through, then they can think about how do we strategically implement these and tell people in the field
Yeah.
how to do it to improve it and get to the, better metric, right?
Yeah. I mean, analyze the scraped data and the summary of what is the data telling us, and then
Right.
being able to make decisions based off of that. And because we will be the ones making the decisions, and
Yeah,
we know that. And
for sure.
yeah, it's just and I love this book. I mentioned on the podcast before, but I think it's The AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods, and he talks about how I think it was in the 1940s to today. 6 out of the 10 jobs that exist today did not exist in the 1940s.
It's crazy.
Six out
Yeah.
of 10. And that blew me away. And it's just talking about like this. It's not like this is the first time this has happened. It's
Right.
just, it's happening quicker.
Yeah.
And the internet was, let's call it 20 years, right? And then AI is 2 years, and it's
Right.
crammed into, it's so much quicker. And then who
So much
knows
faster.
what that's going to turn into. But yeah, I think it's not being scared of it, being cognizant of it, but also being open to what it has to present. And not everything is bad in this world, I think, is what I try and remind myself.
It's just to circle back to something you mentioned, kind of the small businesses and stuff like that. So if you come back to the CONEXPO, we're doing that small business workshop, right? I think
Yes.
this was something that I know you're on a little advisory group for CONEXPO, and I
Yep.
kind of brought this up over the last couple of shows. And I was in the session with Taylor White was on stage, who hosts the CONEXPO podcast, who I know and there was a few
Yep.
other, I think Missy Sherber was on stage, but there's a few people. Anyway, somebody asked the question to the crowd. It said, how many people in here own their own business or something like that? And let's say there was 100 people in the room, I'd say 60 people raised their hand. And I was like,
Wow.
whoa. So you think about, of course, at CONEXPO, we have, the large, ENR top 50 contractors are there looking at equipment and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But there'll be 140,000 people or so at the show, right? There's a ton of small businesses that have, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 employees, right? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, as a small business, especially if it was like, okay, I'm an excavator operator, I can dig holes the best of them. I'm sick of working with this company. I'm just going to break off and do my own thing. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you run a business? How do you invoice people? Right. It's like kind of all of that stuff. So that small business workshop, I'm really excited for that. So that's,
Yeah.
at one of the last days of the show. And it kind of goes back to my earlier point of like, I would say everybody in the room that's in the room together isn't really competing with each other, but they probably have
Right.
a lot of the same challenges or need education and understanding on some things. So, I mean, just from your
Yeah.
perspective, I mean, you're a small business owner, right? I mean,
Yeah.
scaling and cash flow and all of that, man.
Dude, there's so much, and that's the beauty of being a small business owner is you get to do it all. It's the beauty and the curse. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it looks like the workshop is on Friday, the
Yeah.
6th. And this just reminded me, Dylan Mercier, he's D2 Contracting, the owner, and he's been doing a lot with ConExpo as well, and good friends with Taylor. He's been on the podcast, and Luke and I had him on the dirt bags. I mean, this is probably close to your episode, maybe right before. And he was an employee, and then he was just kind of exposed to
Right.
like, man, maybe I
Yeah.
could do this myself. And then we had him on, I think a year later, as he was
Yeah.
the owner of D2 Contracting, and had him on. And yeah, I think he talked about it. Maybe it's in this magazine, but he talked about, yeah, it was harder than I thought.
Yeah.
And so much of it too is there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of plates you're trying to spin, and sometimes too is just focusing on one at a time with people that are either have done it or are currently doing it, that can give you some honestly, some comfort sometimes helps of like, okay, it's not as bad as it's not
Yeah.
always going to be this bad, and ways out of it, because that as you scale, especially as you're going, I would say from, let's call it 200K to 2 million, like there's a lot of changes that happen there. And to break, if you want to, not everyone wants to, if you want to break past 2 million, depending on the company, there's a lot of decisions you have to make that you didn't make from 0 to 2 million, and a lot of those are non-revenue generating positions. It's overhead, it's
Right.
software, it's benefits. I mean, it's all these things that come into play that you maybe didn't have to worry about from 0 to 2. So it's, I think you guys bringing those people together, and I mean, I'm not sure what a small business is classified as nowadays, but
No. Yeah, it was
maybe,
interesting that you said the kind of under 2 million to over,
yeah,
where because I mean, you're working with both of them, I assume, right? I
yep.
mean, I have no experience. I mean, I work for an association and I don't have a business, right? So I mean, this isn't my area, but I always kind of wonder what that is. But you always hear the stories about the people that have done, let's say, some landscape jobs or
Yep.
septic jobs or whatever like that, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we got the opportunity to bid a whole home foundation and everything like that. And it's like, let's do it. Because
Figure it out.
why not figure it out? If you get it, then figure it out, right? And then but then it's like, oh dang, we got this. How do we? What do we need to do? What are the next three key things we need to do to figure this out and not screw it up, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. And that's
you
where,
think everybody's been there, not everybody, but I mean, there's a lot of companies that have been there, right? That have gone from few people doing whatever they're doing to like the next step and whatever those steps are. So I always kind of think of it more of, just because I don't know financials really, like I
yeah.
always think of it as like almost project size,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, that obviously equals financial, total on the books and stuff. But
And another interesting thing with that is I've seen some amazing strategic moves to scale down because
mm,
they scaled up too quickly, or they false scaled and they thought
yeah,
they were making a lot more. Maybe it's just the one development they got as a project, an $800,000 job, and then they didn't know their numbers as much, and then the next year didn't have the backlog, and all of a sudden they have two or three crews that are
yeah,
sitting around. And so I've seen a couple of my good friends like make a great move to scale back to one crew to then reassess, hey, are we shooting for revenue or profit here? And are
right,
we
yeah,
trying to, like, let's make sure we have the right goals in mind. And it's obviously you can drive top line revenue and keep driving it, but at some point you have to make some money to pay the bills, to pay your team, and to make sure that you can sustain a business. Because I think the game of business is, who can do it the longest, and
yeah,
can you
yeah,
break through that 5 year mark, that 10 year mark, and obviously survive would be one, but then thrive and actually make something of it. Because yeah, I know people always say, I'd rather make 50K a year working for myself than 100K working, 9 to 5 or something like that. And there's truth to that, but there's also a way you can make 100K or make 150K working for yourself. And so like, we don't want to have an either or option of like, I'm either going to be poor, but I work for myself, or I'm
yeah,
going to be rich and hate my 9 to 5. So like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think as we talked about earlier in the podcast too, it doesn't always have to just be either or. That can be and. Like, yeah,
right.
we can help a lot of people, we can make money, we can have a great culture, we can build a great team, and we can see our hard work like be rewarded for that, and people are willing to pay for that. And so it's really cool when you see uh, small businesses especially kind of have that mindset and break through that, but they have the people first focus. When you take care of your people, typically, yeah, they say typically they give you a tip with presidents' faces on them, which is profit.
I don't want to steal any of your stats from your education session on Wednesday at CONEXPO, but what do you have anything on? I know you're doing it on retention, right? And I
Yeah.
think some people forget that. Let me think of how to say this, right? Like losing somebody because you didn't treat them well is probably more detrimental to the business than trying to
Hmm.
just add a role,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you still have to hire somebody, but like now you're out that person that had experience and knew your organization, right? So I mean, it's like I feel like it's like And I always go back to the cable companies where they're like,
Mhm.
get this price for 6 months and then you're already a customer, so we'll screw you and jack you up. And it's like, but why don't you want to keep me? Right. It's kind of like shouldn't you put more focus on retention of people?
Yeah. So one of my and yeah, like you said, I won't give away too many secrets because for those still listening to the pod, I would love to see you there in Vegas at my session. It's gonna be a great time. We're gonna have a couple giveaways. We're gonna just dive in. So the way I like to do this session is one of my favorites because I have 10 strategies for employee retention, and it probably doesn't make sense for me myself to have all the 10 strategies coming from my brain because I don't own a construction company. But I do have a value add where we work with over 100 excavation and septic companies full time every day, and there are full time clients. So I have that, and then also just the podcast, getting to know industry experts. And so what I've done before is ask them like what is their top strategy, and then boil it down into 10 specific
That's
strategies, but
cool.
then take it a step further and use the room that we have, the people in the room, to in a sense debate it out. And so
Mm,
what I like to do, and I'll give one example, is creating a clear promotion or a tiered promotion system, we'll say. And what that is painting a clear picture for your team members. We'll just, for examples here, and Alex Parker talked about this on our podcast a while back. He does an amazing job with it. And I pull in some other insights from other business owners, a clear roadmap of, hey, you're at laborer one right now. At laborer two, typically 6 months in, if you hit these requirements, maybe leading the team or executing on these jobs, you will get a $3 raise or $1.50 raise,
okay.
whatever that is. But
So
showing that,
it's like structured so they understand the path,
yep,
right? Yeah.
exactly. And so I present the strategy, like strategy number one, right? And who it's from and how they utilize it. But then what I love is that I'll use the room. I'm the moderator, right? And so I use the room and say, who here has used a strategy like this? And we
Mm,
pros and cons, right? And so we'll get, let's say, 10 or 20 people in the room raise their hand, and I'll call on somebody. Okay, how have you used this? And sometimes we'll get somebody say, I tried that once before. It doesn't work because people are entitled to XYZ. They just want a paycheck, and this is how it didn't work. And they'll say, has anyone here done it successfully? We'll get a contractor raise their hand and say, we've actually implemented this 18 months ago. It worked. And what helped us is we did XYZ. And so the true breakthroughs happen in the room, not on my presentation. And so
cool.
trying to or getting to moderate that, I've done it before and it was just amazing. It was a 60-minute session, which is the one at CONEXPO, and you use the knowledge from the experts on the presentation that I'll present to them, but then it's the people in the room, the real men and women that are running companies of all sizes, that get to give the pros and cons. And I'm just so excited. So we go through those 10 strategies. Last time I only got through 8. So we'll I'm shaping up the keynote a little bit, but yeah, man, it's a good time, and it's not, I think in this one I stay in my lane of knowing, hey, I don't own a construction company, but I get
Yeah.
to talk to and work with them every single day. And then I also want to hear from you guys. And so it's going to be a good
It's
time.
interesting. We just kind of went full circle almost, right? When we're talking about like seeing the equipment at the show and stuff like that is a huge
Yeah.
advantage, but learning from peers is
Hmm.
like, I mean, you can't really, I mean, I guess if you're back to my neighborhood, one landscaper could have walked to my neighbor's house and talked to that landscaper and been like,
Sure.
what's cool, right? But like, it's like learning from other people and meeting other people that you don't know and understanding what they did that worked and what didn't. I mean, there's sharing those experiences and just, having those conversations it's like my favorite thing, man. I
Yeah.
love following people around the show and just like eavesdropping and being like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, man.
Because it's cool. It's cool just to hear some things that people had that worked well, didn't work, challenge they have, all that.
Yeah, it's gonna be electric. I'm super excited. And usually at these education sessions, there's 100, maybe 200
Yeah.
people in these rooms, and you might know 5% of them. You come with your friends, you see some people you know on Instagram and all that, but then 80, 90, 95% of people you don't know. And so you get to hear their insight and their ideas. And I think what I will do is just have that on a platter where it's like, hey, here's what we're talking about. Here's the strategy, who has used it, who hasn't, and talk about the pros and cons. And really, because every strategy doesn't work for everybody. And I think that's also what we're trying to poke holes in is, what were some tweaks that helped it work, and also what things, had it fail. So,
Right.
Yeah, man.
Or if it's like the kind of overall strategy, right? It's like, where are the areas you could tweak?
Yeah.
Right, based on who your employees are, or location, or whatever those like variables are, right? I mean, that's kind of you think about it. I mean, you think about just hiring somebody or even playing like a sport with somebody, right? I mean, some people react to getting yelled at different than other people. Like sometimes it's motivating, and sometimes you're like, stop yelling at me, asshole.
Yeah.
Right?
Negative reinforcement.
Exactly right. Yeah. So it's an interesting like thing to kind of try to analyze that, like tweakable areas, right?
Yeah.
So,
man, yeah. And I know before we wrap up, definitely want to hit on. It's one of my favorite segments here. I know a lot of our listeners get a lot of value out of this, but and before we get to this, for everyone still listening, we've got John Summers. This is episode number 113. Give him a LinkedIn follow. Unbelievable follow on LinkedIn. It's Summers as in SOMERS. And also on Instagram at John Summers. So, John, got to finish it with this. Any book recommendations or podcast recommendations that you have for our listeners? Anything that you've been listening, reading that have helped you get to where you're at, or anything that you want to read in the future here?
So I actually thought of I'm not a big book. I mean, I don't read, I listen to everything, right?
Yeah.
But I'm even book wise, but I thought of this one earlier when you're talking. It's called Little and Often, and it's by a guy named Trent Pressler. He tells the story about how, I don't remember how it really starts, but he got like a toolbox of tools when his dad passed away and decided he was going to build a canoe for some reason. I don't remember how the whole thing came together, but no experience in building, right? Like kind of didn't get along with his parents, kind of was a little bit outcast, person like that. But like the whole premise of it is little and often. You just keep doing little steps, but you do them often enough and you'll eventually get to the final result, right? So I think that's even kind of a overall business lesson, right? I mean, we're talking about hiring employees and scaling and stuff like that, right? It's like, don't go too fast and too big, too quick, right? Just keep taking little bites, little chunks off, but do that very frequently and often, right? And then continue to kind of scale up. So, actually, it was a few years ago when I listened to that. It was really good. I mean, it was an interesting thing to think about how to apply that to anything really in life almost, right? I listen to, for podcast wise, I mean, Dirtbag, of course, right? CONEXPO, CONEG podcast. Yeah. I mean, in that order, right? Of course. Yeah. The other one I listen to a lot, which, I mean, maybe some of your listeners know this, but it's called Modern Craftsman. It's a couple guys, in Boston area, Philly area that do home building. It's obviously more residential stuff, like not necessarily our space, but they've had some interesting guests on there and, kind of just talking about business and all this stuff like that. Yeah. And I got to look at this. I wrote this down on my phone because I always forget the words, but there was something that was said on there the other day. Yeah. So I think Nick on the podcast was talking about when somebody comes back and they're like, all right, this house is going to be $5 million. And they're like, whoa, we only have $3 million to spend or like that. He's like, okay, well, you really have three options, right? It's remove, reduce, and defer. Right. So you think about like that from business as well, right? Either you're just going to not do something, like just remove it from the scope, which I always think should be option 3, right? Reduce it, meaning like I'm thinking home building, right? And we just built a home, like crazy elaborate stone wall on the front of my house. Like, oh my God, that's $100,000. We're not going to do that. We're just going to reduce it to just the lower part or something like that, right? Or defer. So I told you this when we started, I'm sitting in our unfinished basement, just looking out at concrete walls and whatever like that. I mean, we're going to finish the basement because it's my office, but just defer it and do it later. Right. So it's kind of like, so that was kind of interesting on kind of how that was framed up from a home building piece of it. Right. But I think just from if we keep going back to the small business thing, because that's in my mind now, it's like, do we remove something, reduce whatever it is, or just say like, okay, we were going to do this now, but let's just kind of push it off a little bit and maybe scale later or put the bid out for the whole project later, whatever. Yeah. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and you can look at that in multiple ways too, of course, of your own business. Let's say you're looking at what can we remove, reduce, or defer in a certain situation, but also too, I mean, let's say somebody listening works with a residential contractor, or sorry, a residential customer or client, and they give them the estimate or they give them the quote. Let's say it's an outdoor transformation, right? Swimming pool, pergola, patios, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just price shocked. It's like, well, it doesn't have to end here. Like it's let's look at the estimate. Let's look at the quote, and yeah, remove, reduce, defer. And I like the defer too because it's not a no, it's a
Right.
not yet. So this
Yeah.
might be a phase 2 or this might be a phase 3 in the project, but we can come back next spring and do that part and kind of
That's
build out the plan. And I just like you're downstairs right now that you mentioned, you're still going to get it done, but you know that you're not going to do it right now
we
because
want to
of
do it right
whatever
away.
reasons
Right.
those are.
Yeah.
And so we're going to defer it to next year. But then part of deferring is a plan, right? Coming up with a plan and the steps to get there. Because you can't just, let's say in your example, you can't just say, yeah, 12 months, we're going to build out my whole office downstairs, but then there's no saving or there's no goals or there's no budgeting. It's like, well, we're going to be in the same spot we were, if not
Yeah.
worse.
It's going to defer forever at that point.
It's going to defer forever. So I think what deferring allows you to do, you have to complete it with a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's might be a good little key takeaway from this podcast, man. It took us
Man.
a while to get there, but yeah.
Buried it in an hour and 31 minutes.
This is why you got to stick around to the end, listeners.
Yes.
You're gonna miss the best stuff.
Yes. Let us know. Shoot John and I a message if you heard that, if you made it to the hour and a half. John, yeah, we just have some unbelievable listeners that listen to the whole entire episode. I just can't believe it each time, but man, it's so great having you back on the show.
Yeah,
just diving in. I feel like we had so much to catch up on, still do, but excited to see you in March in Vegas.
I'll be there.
For everyone listening, you'll see John running around. You're usually pretty good, I feel like, in Vegas. Your hair is not on fire or anything.
Pretty good. Oh,
yeah.
I thought you meant like I'm at the show on time and not.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. No, I love in-person stuff. I mean, you kind of, thanks for the plug earlier, like the LinkedIn plug and stuff like that. I said I'm going to try and be more active on there, but hopefully I get an invite to your Dirtbags meetup.
100%. Yeah, you're going to be our keynote speaker.
Oh God, I'll kick it off. But yeah, anybody else that seriously wants to reach out, love to meet new people. I mean, I have a good amount of stuff on the schedule with some different education sessions and then that groundbreaker stage thing, but happy to say hi to anybody and kind of make that happen. So
yeah, we'll definitely have you at the Dirtbags meetup. And like I said, to anyone listening, I'll put some details together, and John, we'll have you there. We'll have a lot of our previous guests and everyone listening show up, and it'll just be a good time. Pretty casual, right? Maybe we'll do beers, maybe we'll do a pizza party. We'll figure that out. But really the main thing is getting people together, talking some business, doing some networking, and hanging out, having a good time.
That's what it's all about, man. Especially, you said LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever like that. It's like there's so many people that, quote unquote, know each other, right, from the industry now. But it's like, where else can you go besides CONEXPO in Vegas, where they're all going to be in the same city, right? Yeah. And actually meet the people in person. I mean, this is such a we didn't even touch on this, but this is such like a relationship industry. And whether you're a sub of somebody or a GC or equipment OEM or random association guy like me or podcast host or whatever it is, right? I mean, man, it's all about the people. And that's the reason I'm still, here. And I think a lot of people just love that part about this industry, man. It's the best.
Yeah, it's so fun. And yeah, we could have a whole nother episode on building relationships and also too, blackjack strategies. I mean, that could be a bonus episode. So
that also is building relationships. Though.
Yes.
I mean, you got to think we could tie those together at the person next to you at the table, right?
When you're, let's say you're at a blackjack table, and then I promise we'll wrap up. You're at a blackjack table with 6 of your friends that you met maybe online, or they're in the construction industry and you're just hanging out, or maybe your clients. You go through the trenches on the blackjack table, and I mean, you're battling up and down, and sometimes those are the best memories. Luke Payne, as you guys all know, he's a great friend of mine. Like anytime we get together, we love posting up at the blackjack table, and
And
it's a journey you go through. So you can learn
it's
a
the
lot.
highest the highs and the lowest the lows, man.
Yep,
It's
exactly.
funny.
So, but John, unbelievable podcast. Thank you for being on. Happy 2026, and man, can't wait to see you in Vegas in March.
Yeah, I hope everybody's having a good beginning of the year when you listen to this, and safe travels to Vegas, and we'll see you at the show.
Heck
Thanks
yeah.
for having me on, buddy. Good to see you.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Cheers.